Good evening, everyone. Hope you guys have had a great day. I wanted to talk to you today about dog psychology because really for you to understand anything about the topics that we discuss, you really have to have a solid understanding about dog psychology. So I'm going to give you just what I refer to as my Cliff Notes version of it. Okay, so I'm not going to give you a long description, but just the basics about dog psychology. Now, the first thing we have to understand about dogs is that they are a different species than the human species, right? So it only stands to reason that we would have to use a different type of psychology to understand and control or change or modify dog behavior, right? Because they're a different species. So the same way that you wouldn't apply dog psychology or any other kind of animal psychology to people to try to help them, you can't do the same, you can't apply human psychology to dogs, and that's where we tend to get in trouble. We humanize our dogs, we baby them, we come up with all of these ideas and stories about why they act a certain way based on what we feel a person would do or how a person would feel. So a real quick way to look at this is to understand that in the wild, dogs get nothing for free. Okay, so in their natural world, you can look at a pack of wolves or a pack of feral dogs or however you want to see it. But basically, what they do in the course of any given day is the pack follows a leader. All right, that's their first obligation for the day, is that they have to follow the leader. They have to find prey. They have to catch prey. They have to kill the prey. Then they have to wait their turn before they eat. Okay, everything is according to what the leader or the alpha of the pack decides. They also have to fend off predators. They also have to deal with inclement weather. They also have to find water. Okay, so this is one day. And what do they get for all of that work? They get the right to live in an orderly fashion for one day. That's it. The next day they have to get up and do it again. They don't get a cookie or a treat or a high five or a good job or anything. They just get the right to live for one day. Okay? So the point of that is that one of the things that is the biggest downfall that we have with our dogs is when we give them, you've heard me say this many times, and I'll probably won't be the last time, but when we give them excessive amounts of unearned affection. So because of the story that I just told you about what dogs do in the course of any given day, they're hardwired to want to work for what they get. So when they come into our lives and we domesticate them, immediately we begin giving them everything for free, including affection, which is something they don't even do in their world, not the way we do. Okay, so they're not primates. They don't have arms. They don't hug and kiss. We do that. And a lot of times we insist that this is something that they love doing, but the reality is many times hugging dogs stresses them out and they really don't like it, which is why kids get bitten in the face all the time. Okay, I don't want to get off on too many tangents, but I want you to understand those basics, because it's really everything else. It has to do with, you have to understand that basic thing about dogs is that they're different than us and they respond to a different kind of psychology than we do. Okay, so we can, basically when dogs come into our home, they become a part of the pack, right? So the pack may consist of a husband and wife and 3 kids and a cat, or another dog, or it could be one person, it doesn't matter, but that's the pack. So when they come in, the same way that I talked the other day about how we have to make an imprint on our dogs right away, they come in and they immediately begin to size up who's in charge. And it can be any kind of little nuance that we address them with too much affection right off the bat, or that we address them with a lot of what they would refer to as soft energy or weak energy. So we don't come across as strong or someone that would give them guidance and direction the way a pack leader would. Then that's where things begin to go the wrong direction. Okay, if we haven't made that imprint on them right away, which is why I talk about leadership so much. Okay, so I don't want to beat that to death. I just want you to understand that the little nuances and the ways that we interact with our dogs have a lot to do with how they respond to us or how they don't respond to us. So one of the questions that I got, and I got so many, I'm going to have to break this up over a course of a few days, but one of the questions that I've gotten a lot is what to do about a dog that's overprotective in the house. Okay, that's a very common problem, and any kind of overprotection type of behavior is based on the fact that the dog doesn't see you as being in charge or capable of protecting the pack. Okay, so what I allow my dogs to do is basically I want them to alert me if UPS drives up or a stranger comes to my door or whatever happens, then I'm fine with the dog alerting. I wouldn't want it any other way. But what I want to be able to do is say, got it, thank you, now you can go to your place or go to wherever, but I've got this now, okay? So then I can then, if I want to have the person come in, that person no longer becomes an intruder, because I, as the pack leader and as the person who is in my home, and I give my dogs a right to live in my home as family members, but that way the person that's coming in is no longer an intruder. They're actually a welcomed guest of the pack. You see, so there's a big difference there. But you have to be able to, that's why I always say that the way, many times when people ask me, what do I do about this problem, what do I do about that problem is the symptom of an issue that's deeper and bigger than the problem. So when the relationship isn't right and when the dog doesn't see you as an authority figure, then you're not really able to say anything that's going to make a difference in that dog's behavior. I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to do Cliff Notes version, but it may be getting a little bit out of control here. But the important thing is that you have to have, in your dog's eyes, you have to be someone that's an authority figure, the same way you have to with a child when you're raising a child. If your child doesn't respect you and doesn't honor you and doesn't see you as someone whose wisdom they can trust, then they're not going to obey you. You can use the same analogy for someone that has a business, and if the people that he hires to work for him don't respect him, then he's going to have a mess on his hands. Okay, so the same thing applies with your dogs. So let me give you just a quick tip on what you can do as you're working to fix your relationship with your dog. All right, and we will go, as I continue this whole series on this, I will talk about the nuances, the little things that you can do and not do that make such a huge difference in how your dog sees you. And the bottom line is that if they don't see you in a position of authority, that position will by default go to them, and then you have a problem on your hands. But one of the things that you can do, just to go back to this issue of overprotectiveness, is you can allow your dogs to alert you, and then you can send them somewhere. Okay, so that way you're not just, there's a lot of this no, 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 don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. But with a correction, if there's no follow-up with direction, then the dog is just kind of confused and will go right back to the same behavior again. The same way a child would, if you were trying to do something in the kitchen, cooking a meal or whatever, and your child came and started to bother you while you were trying to cook and you didn't want them in there, you could say, no, don't bother me right now, I'm cooking. But most parents would say, don't bother me, why don't you go play with your brother, or I don't know what kids do nowadays. Go watch a video game, or whatever it is that they do. But a good parent would not just correct their child, they would also direct their child. So that's our responsibility as pack leaders, okay? So if somebody comes to the door and your dog becomes overly protective, then you can get a leash and just go get your dog. You don't have to call. If you're going to call your dog and the dog doesn't see you as an authority figure yet, then you're going to be saying his name over and over and over again, and your dog's going to know that 5 or 6 times you don't really mean it until you get to 7th or 8th, and then you get frustrated and then you yell or whatever it is. So just go get your dog. Get a basic slip lead, put it over your dog's neck, ask him to come, and then go and put him in a place. And I can go into more detail about place work later. It's one of the things that every single person, every one of my students, every one of my clients learns and understands. It's such a key component to having your dog behave well. But the bottom line is that you have to send your dog to a place away from the door and then welcome your guest in. Okay? And then anything after that becomes nuisance barking, and you certainly don't want that. You want to be alerted once and then said, great, thank you. Now, another thing, one more question that I want to address tonight, maybe 2 more, because this is sort of similar. Someone wrote in about having a lap dog. Someone has a lap dog, in other words, a small dog that's become very aggressive, that lives on an elderly person's lap all day. I have dealt with this issue a zillion times, especially I've even had clients that were actually in senior care facilities, and they have a real problem with this because most of the people that are in there have lost their homes, they've maybe lost family members, they're elderly, they don't have much, the only thing they can have is a dog under 20 pounds. I'm using wide generalizations here, so bear with me, because otherwise this would be a 10-hour video. So they get these little dogs that are 10, 15 pounds or smaller dogs, and the dogs live. They're not very mobile, and the people aren't very mobile, and so the dogs live on their lap, and all day long they are at eye level with other humans. So what happens is the dog becomes very powerful because all day long the dog is practicing a behavior where they're claiming that particular person. So what has happened in some of these senior care facilities and in individual homes as well is the doctors or the caregivers come in and try to treat the patients, and they can't get near them because that dog has developed such an overprotectiveness, such a emboldened attitude about other people coming near their person. So it's a difficult thing to fix because it's very difficult to have to tell an elderly person that their dog can't spend its entire day on their lap. So that's always a tough call. But that's actually, you know, there's a lot of things in life that are tough but true, and that's one of them, that a dog really needs time to be a dog, to have his feet on the ground, to be walked, like, and to explore and to socialize with other dogs. And unfortunately, in those situations, a lot of times the dogs don't have that ability. They just become literally little ornaments on somebody, and that's unnatural, and so they're going to have fallout behavior from that. Okay, and then one more issue that I'll discuss, and then we will save stuff for another day. But someone that wrote in has a problem with a dog that sniffs a lot on the walks. If you've ever watched any of my videos or seen any of my photos of me walking my pack, you'll see that my dogs' heads are always up. Okay, they're always up looking straight ahead. We're all in the same state of mind. We're all kind of in this zone where we're walking straight ahead. Now, I have rules of my walk when I walk. My number one rule is that my dogs can't pull me. They can't pull me down the hill. I have to lead. They have to be by my side or behind me, whether they're on leash or off leash. So that's rule number one. Rule number two, and this is the one that this person has asked about, they can't track. So what's tracking? Tracking is nose to the ground, sniffing, okay, sniffing every little thing. When they do that, the nose or the scent, the nose of the dog controls about 70% of the dog's brain. So that means you're left with about 30% relevancy as far as your dog is concerned. And you don't want that. You want the pack to all be on the same page. You want them to be practicing pack drive, not prey drive. And if the nose is on the ground, they are not with you or with the rest of the pack if the pack's in pack drive and going with their head up off the ground. So that's critical. So there's a simple solution to that is if you're walking your dog, you just don't allow it. You basically use, tug the dog away from it with a leash and keep them going. Sometimes it helps to walk at a faster clip because it's a little harder for the dog to have his nose to the ground and be sniffing if you're on a mission. Okay, so if you're walking straight ahead at sort of a fast pace, or at least a faster pace than what you would normally do, a lot of times that's helpful. But it's some of these things are just repetition. Okay, the other thing that I don't allow, I may as well finish this. The other thing that I don't allow on the pack walks, I don't allow a dog to fixate. That's the third thing. So they can't be fixated on prey, or they can't be scouting for a deer. And I'll snap them out of that with a little bit of leash pressure or a little bit of touch or something when they're doing that, because once again, their brain is in prey drive, not pack drive. And then the other thing I don't allow is marking. I do let a dog, if a dog has to pee, then that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But marking is an entirely different thing. It's a dominance behavior, and it's not appropriate. I don't want my dogs collecting real estate all the way up and down the road, and that's basically what they're doing. Mine, 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 mine. Okay. And then the problem you have with that is then some dog comes along and, wait a minute, I thought I owned that sidewalk. No, actually you don't. So that's why you don't let a dog mark, okay? So I think that's enough for today. Hope you enjoyed it. And please keep sending me more questions and more topics to discuss. We're a little bit all over the map right now, but we'll get there. I really wanted to talk about the basic dog psychology part, because I think it's essential to understand how dogs think. We have to get out of this thing where we humanize them, and there's so many different ways that we humanize dogs, and it's just not fair to them for us to approach them from that perspective any more than it's also not fair for us to be approached from a dog psychology standpoint. We're people and we have different needs, and we respond to things differently than they do. Okay, they're a different species, only stands to reason. There's a different kind of psychology to deal with them. So I hope to talk to you soon. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. And always remember to lead with love. Sherry Lucas, love you guys. See you later. Bye.